B-Leaguers, it's your boy here, Dan, at the B-League says, coming at you with a conference championship round with the B-Leagues Pickems show. Here we are. We have two more episodes left. We've got the Super Bowl episode coming live to you in a week or two. I think I'm going to put that out probably closer towards the Super Bowl, maybe on the Saturday prior. We'll see how we're going with that. But to get there, we have to go through this, and that is the Washington Commanders at Philadelphia and obviously the Bills at Chiefs again, which feels like, the third or fourth year in a row. It feels like this, I think, since he's been in there once or twice as well. But it feels like this seems to be a bit of a staple for the AFC, and here we are. Before we get going, I'm going to rattle off a few things, as always. Underdog.com, not Underdog Fantasy, but Underdog.com, where we get our prop bets from. Promo code GF2 for 100% match deposit up to 250 big ones. Any more questions about that, find Jeff Lambert77 on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Asking about those promo codes, but we match deposit, or they match deposit up to 250 big ones on your initial outlay. And you can also find us over on our Discord. It is a free Discord service. You can get over there. You can punch out questions about waiver wire stuff, dynasty trades, betting advice, anything that you have in regards to football or fantasy football. You can find us over there. Tag your people in it, find the correct channel, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. One more thing before we get started. As always, happy Australia Day to my fellow Australians back home. It would be a little bit of a bitter one. It's also my dad's birthday. His would be 71st, so happy birthday to him up there somewhere. But happy birthday to him and happy Australia Day to those back home as well. We're going to kick right off into some props now. Last week, very big rebound for those who are playing along. We went 7 for 8 with our Pickems show. The week before the divisional round, not the divisional round, wildcard round, absolutely stunk it up. I don't think I got any right in that one. I don't want to even admit that out loud. It was just one of those things where everything went wrong. But last week, everything just about went right. I forget what I missed on. It was a yardage prop. Someone else, it doesn't really matter. I think it was a few yards short. So we were there just about, or there or thereabouts. It was a fantastic place to be as well. So we're looking at this week's props, and I'm over the moon about that because I feel like there's some really tasty props out there for us in regards to this week's games. Just going to get that loaded up here for me at this point. I've got them written down somewhere. There we go. Split screen, Dan. Very good. Nice and professional, as always. I look at this Eagles-Commanders game. Commanders at Eagles game. And it's a very interesting one, obviously, because of the Jalen Hurts injury to his knee. We saw him go down. He got hurt. He was limping about. He got through it. And he's only got a short week to turn around. He's at home. I don't know if it's a bit of a smoke screen with that. He's probably okay. He's probably able to get through it. He seems like a bit of a tough kid. He takes a lot of hits, and I'm not surprised that he's playing this week. Obviously, he can get through half a game if they can do well, so I expect Philly to start fast at that point. And if they do that, they can manage him through the rest of the game, risk-free football, as it would be. The problem with that is it's picking what you want from Saquon Barkley. He's probably going to get a lot of the ball. He's probably going to get a lot of attention. If that's the case, they're going to try and get Jalen Hurts to move out of the pocket. If that's the case, you're looking at those edge guys, probably going to have a bit of luck with that. If Philly get off to a hot start, Commanders are going to start chasing. So I've looked at these sorts of scenarios for this game coming through, and I feel like that's probably the way it's going to happen. In my mind, I feel like Philly are going to try and start hot and try to manage Hurts through the rest of the game, and that way they get 2 weeks off, and it'll just be risk-free from them. It'll be very basic. Might be a very boring game at that point as well. So, might be a bit of a defensive masterclass from the Eagles. I can see that coming. We got on them last week in those Eagles props. There's tackles props as well. They did very well for us. We're going to look at that in that idea. Eagles to start fast, Commanders to chase. And if that's the case, pick number 1. I like him for this week. Austin Eckler, higher than 3.5 receptions and higher than 25.5 receiving yards. I feel like that's a great place to start for him. I'm not even going to pretend that this season has been anything but consistent for Eckler. He's a fantastic player. He's had a bit of an injury-plagued couple of years. He's almost falling into that Rex Burkhead world now where he's kind of having those games and not having those games, and he's having a game that he's not having a game, which really sucks to say, but it kind of feels like that's where he's entering. But he's been in that rotation with Brian Robinson and Jeremy McNichols this year. By the way, congrats to Jeremy McNichols. He's really found the landing spot in Washington and found a role. I really like what he's been able to do there. He's had a very good season for his standards. I think he's going to only get better in the next year or two. Look, he's played him once on the road this year. Pumped out 9 for 8 and 89. So, not bad for Eckler in that regard. To get nine targets, 89 yards in the receiving game, I feel like that's a pretty good place to start when we're talking about Eckler, because we can only really talk about small sample sizes for him this year, because that's really all he's given us. He's given us a couple small samples, and then he's done nothing, and a couple small samples, and then he's done nothing in that regard. So I feel like that's a good place to start. So he's had success at the link versus the Eagles, going for 9 for 89 in that regard. Okay, in his last 2 matchups this year, he's gone for at least 3 for 25 as a minimum. And that's something, because that's obviously where our line is. I know we're clutching a bit, but we know what these NFL teams are like. They like to be creatures of habit. And if Eckler's had success the way he's had before against the Eagles, then I look this way again as well. I feel like that's the logical place to start. What makes Eckler's effort versus the Eagles even more impressive is that Philly shut down the run game all over the place in general, including the receiving game to running backs. That's generally a great place for them to build their defense up from. So, Eckler alone in the 17 games this season, he accounts for 19% of all receiving yards given to running backs. And when you think about that out aloud, 19% out of 17 regular season games, it's kind of wild to think that he's 20% of those receiving yards is one guy, and that's Austin Eckler this year. And I feel like that's kind of wild for them to look into. Oh, hello, Jamie. Hey, mate, and a special Australia Day g'day to you too, my friend. Yes, just for recommendations for what it's worth, Australian beer pisses on all over American. Your beer sucks. Go get some VB. Go get some Melbourne Bitter. Go get some Foster's. No, not Foster's. That's the dregs. We don't even drink that. We sold that to you. Ugh, no good. What is the other one we have? Oh, Cooper's. That's not too bad. James Bogue's really good. Cascade. That's another nice drop. Treat yourself to an Australian beer if you can find one. They actually have good distributors in Ohio, Jamie, which I've had to go through. But yes, happy day to you too, then, my friend. Pick number 2. We're going to look at that. So we're going along with that game theory of these running backs for the Eagles are going to get some work. So we're looking at Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. Yes, we're tapping into some IDP. No shrimps, they're prawns, you clown. Don't even say it. It's insulting an entire nation. Our prawns are like that big too, man. What are these little things you get in stir fry here? It's disgraceful. So we're going along with the linebackers are going to get the work for the Commanders. I have got a problem with this to a degree. I'm going to go against the norm on this. We're going to go Bobby Wagner lower than 9.5 combined. I feel like I'm going to shoot myself in the foot on this, and I feel like that's on the table because how good's Bobby Wagner? But look, the problem with this line isn't the idea that Barkley won't get fed. He will, or that Wagner won't see a lot of Barkley. He will. I'm a bit more worried of how Philly deploy an injured Hurts this week, as I said before. So if getting rid of the ball quickly is the plan and not taking hits is the goal, I can see him getting more protection from, say, Dallas Goedert to open up a screen to Smith or Brown. I feel like that's going to happen a lot. I'm leaning into the idea of less RPO, more quick release, and that takes away a lot from what Wagner is going to be effective with. They might bypass him at this point. That's where I'm going. I'm going to buy some Aussie brand shampoo. I don't even know if it is, mate. They put a kangaroo on it, so it must be like Kangol, right? The Kangol hats, I don't think they're ours. All right? You can put a kangaroo on a hat and say Kangol. I don't think they belong to us, so I don't even know why you've got that here. So maybe it is ours. I don't really know. Either way, so Bobby Wagner also, for what it's worth, did not go over this line versus the Eagles this year either. So I think we're going to see a juiced up line from the house, and the idea that more Barkley and less Hurts equals more tackles, where that's kind of weird. I would think more Barkley and more Hurts equals more tackles. We're taking away 50% of that production from him. I kind of would think, that makes no sense in that regard. Good morning, Kyle. Happy Australia Day to you too, my friend. That's what we're doing today. Either way. And as I spoke before about the other linebackers there in Washington, I'm looking at Frankie Louvu. I'm not going to touch on his tackle props. I'm going to talk about his sacks higher than half. And we do get a hefty bonus at 1.79x. Speaking of Hurts again, Hurts, while injured this season, took a season high in sacks last week against the Rams. We know that as well. He got absolutely smashed for 7 from guys playing on the inside and out. And although he didn't play in their last meeting, Pickett got hit for 4 in week 16 by 4 different guys. Hurts earlier this season got struck by Frankie Louvu twice this year as well. So Louvu had a pretty big sack game against them earlier in the season against Jalen Hurts. Louvu obviously set a career high in sacks this year for 8, but he's been on a bit of a dry spell, so that's something why we're probably getting that bonus in that department. He hasn't hit home for about 7 weeks. However, with Hurts immobilized and getting that bonus of 1.79x. I'm willing to take a bit of a risk here. That bonus is quite nice. We are all in the Commonwealth, Kyle, and I'm still not sure that's a good thing. But it's nice to have an Antipodean brotherhood in you. That's it. Antipodean, that's the one. I think that's what it's called. Antipodean. Yeah, that's what we know as in the Commonwealth. Either way, we're going to look at the second game for the week. We're going to look at the Bills at the Chiefs in another game, which people complain about these referees all the time. Just make better plays. That's where I'm at. Oh my God, he fell. Yeah, he fell. Fucking hit him. Like, knock him out. I'd go full, like, what was that dude from the Saints? What was his name? I see him on the morning too. Like, go Sean Payton and the Saints. Just a bit of a bounty. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be like, just knock him in the head a few times. Take him out. Let Carson Wentz figure it out. That's what I'd be doing. I'd have one sacrificial lamb, some guy that's on the end of the roster, say, listen, we can triple your wage for next year. This is what we're going to do. You might get suspended for a few weeks, but you're going to break his neck. Just go out and do it. Just go and fuck this guy up. Take him out of the game. We don't have to worry about this bullshit anymore. That's just what I do. There was no Jaden Daniels talk, mate. Don't worry about that. We had some Austin Eckler in there, some Bobby Wagner, some Frankie Louvu. Oh, actually, I missed one. I didn't bold it up. We're going to get away from that. I actually have one more here. Terry McLaurin. I got some Terry McLaurin talk. Where's Jamie? He's going to rag all over me for this. I remember going back early in the preseason. Jonathan Vilma, that's the one. Yes, thank you, Kyle. Yeah, go find yourself a Jonathan Vilma and just smack the piss about on Patrick Mahomes. Bountygate, that's the one. I'd be all over it. We can frown upon it, but it's a contact sport. They've got helmets. Just fuck him up a bit. Take him out of the game for a series or two. That's what I'd be doing. I know that sounds horrible, and it's a terrible take, but if you're really worried about these refs, you're not going to get them off the field. Get Mahomes off the field. That's what we're doing. For those who have never seen my show before, I'm taking the piss a bit. So please, just, calm down a bit. Pick number 3, we go Terry McLaurin. I can't believe we've got all about this. I wrote it up earlier, and it's just one of those things. We're going to look at his highest reception prop. We're going to go lower than 23.5. Not the best record versus the Eagles this year, Terry McLaurin, let's face it. It was okay, 60 for 1. He did all right against Philly at home a few weeks back. And Kenny Pickett played and kaplunked. But, McLaurin also went 2 for 1 against the Eagles at Philly this year. It might have been a Mariota game. I can't remember. Thank you, Grit in the Gridiron. I'm going to bring that up in a minute, but that's fine. So, his average versus Philly is not really that bad, actually. He's normally pushing around 70, 75 yards per game, but he gets there by volume. So the problem is that not that he can't get these big plays off, because he's been getting a lot of them with Jaden Daniels this year, and I can see that. It was obviously last week, Detroit had a 58-yard reception. Week before that against Tampa, 35-yard reception. So, he has that in his bag. And obviously with Daniels, those sorts of things can happen, a broken play here or there. I understand that. Philly don't generally allow this to happen too often. So the idea that, I think it might be his consistency that he gets there, whether it could be like a 5 for 60 day, 6 for 70 day, and it's going to be that 10, 12 yards reception. I think we're getting a 23.5-yard boost for his highest reception based on what's happened in the last week or two. And all praise to the Commanders at this point for what they've been able to dish up. But it's one of those things where it's just that the whole consistency side of him, I think it's going to be this week. I don't think we're going to see those big plays this week. And I just, his highest reception prop, he's had one in the single digits, one in the teens, a couple in the teens, one in the 20s, one in the 80s, back in the teens. He's kind of all over the place. And I worry that we're looking at this juiced up line of 23.5 because of what he's been able to get away with Tampa and Detroit. And that's a high line. They're going to say, yeah, but he, averaged 43.5 against them on average the last 2 games. I just don't think that's the sort of thing that we're going to push this week. So I can see him getting over the general props that they've given him this week. I think he's at 60 and a half and 4.5 receptions. So I think it's at 60.5 yards and 4.5 receptions. I could see him getting over that quite easily. I'm not sure he's going to get there by that massive play, and that 23.5. I think I'm going to take the lower on that this week. It's a violent sport. Be violent. Yes, that's it. I come from a world where, we hit people for fun. Hit him, get some hands on him, these little hands in the face, and he falls over. You want it to stop? Find a way to put Carson Wentz in there. That's all I'm saying. Do I like I can't read. Why is my screen so small? Why do I do this to myself every time? Thank you, Jamie, for the question. Do you like Kincaid over 32.5? Yeah, I don't mind it. I worry that this is going to be one of those games where Joe Brady's going to try, like he's on audition and he's going to try and spread the shit out of it to everyone. Kincaid, 32.5. I'd like it more as a second half prop, as a live prop. So I would be tracking that because that's Dalton Kincaid. Obviously, he's not going through Amari Cooper. It's a Curtis Samuel splash game. Khalil Shakir, maybe. I'd probably like more Ty Johnson over any Bills receiver at this point. But I think Ty Johnson, let me bring it back up. I've got to find that. Either way, if someone can find me that Ty Johnson, I was looking at that earlier as well. But Kincaid, I would look at that as a second half prop or as a live prop. I'd want to see where that goes and I'd get on that there. Because if he's struggling before halftime, that's probably in play if the Chiefs have a bit of a lead. They allowed 3 games under 32.5 to the Chargers, 30 to Browns, 25 to Broncos. Yeah, again, like I'm not sure how much we're looking at DTR with Njoku, or I don't even know who the Broncos tight ends are at this point. You know, the Chargers, Herbert, with how they play with Will Dissly. This isn't the same as Josh Allen with Kincaid and Knox, right? So it's a different, and there's a lot of familiarity there with the Chiefs and Bills at this point. They played early in the year. And I believe he was okay. Why are we offering these things at this point? What's going on here? Dalton Kincaid, where are we? He went 4 against the Chiefs. Dead silence. It doesn't matter. Ty Johnson is 8.5 receiving yards. Like, I'd take that to the bank. Like, I feel better about Ty Johnson as 8.5 receiving yards. Like, that's where I feel good. Like, that's probably a higher chance of happening the way this is going. And naturally, part of that TikTok influence led was Patrick Mahomes' brother Jackson, who on the Monday Night Football show, hi Kyle, we had lots to say about him at a certain point. I wanted an NFL player footballer. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. What a weird anomaly. He's Jesus Christ. He's almost falling into that Kyle Pitts overrated, overdrafted phase, isn't he? Big year 3 for Dalton Kincaid, I would say. I remember when people were like, Kyle Pitts is the 101. Those fucking numpties. Yeah, if you're not taking Kyle Pitts, 101. Like, you didn't learn anything from OJ Howard, you fucking dickheads. 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting fired up about Kyle Pitts, OJ Howard, and Dalton Kincaid. What a world am I living in. Unbelievable. Let's look at that Chiefs-Bills game before I get myself into more trouble. We're looking at pick number 4 for the day. We're looking at Josh Allen pass attempts higher than 31.5. I actually love this prop this week. I think last week's quiet game, what did he have? Combined sub 150 yards rushing and passing. Like, that's kind of wild for Josh Allen in a game like that, especially against the Ravens in a game that, he put up over 27 points of 150 yards. That's madness, isn't it? So that's got to be an outlier. That's got to be Ricky Jackson Mahomes. Is that the dude in prison is? Yeah, there he goes. Good morning to you too, Kyle. Let that sit in your stomach all day. I'd heavily consider last week's performance really not much anything other than that, but he's played the Chiefs earlier, and regular season games versus the Chiefs in 5 games, he's got a healthy 35 average pass attempts per game, including a 40 earlier. We can also look at his playoff performances too. Like, in 3 playoff games, he's a click over 41 on average versus the Chiefs. 2 of those games were on the road. He's averaged 43 pass attempts on the road in playoff games versus the Chiefs. I feel like he's going to have to light it up in that regard. Not being out of second gear, it feels like, in his home road splits are just about, it's wild because it's pretty much even across the board. He's a little bit higher on the road with pass attempts than at home, which, probably isn't normally the case when, you look at Allen and the Bills, they're heavy favorites most weeks. So the idea that they're road favorites and he has to throw, it's kind of weird. So that was weird to me anyway. Hell of a discounted line, I think. So if you're looking at 43 on average through the playoffs versus the Chiefs and 35 through the year, and we're getting 31.5, and everyone's saying this game's going to hit over 50, 54. kind of feel like he has to play his part in that, and 31.5 is a line there for the taking. Chiefs regular season, 34 on average to quarterbacks, pass attempts, and last week versus Houston, versus Stroud, no Diggs, no Dell, still got the 28-29 on the road. So I feel like for Houston, they were there. They also got lit up by Joe Mixon as well. He had himself a day, but how does that help when you're losing? Either way. OJ Howard, nice pull. Yep. Game well over 8.5 rushing in the other game. That seems like a lock. Yeah, it probably is. He's going to get some work in there too. Like Gainwell over 8.5. I like that. Ty Johnson over 8.5 receiving yards. I like that. Gonna brick this up there. Freaking Jackson Mahomes. This is where we're at. We brought this guy back. We brought him back. It's like Beetlejuice. It's like Beetlejuice, Jackson Mahomes. We're talking about Jackson. Oh shit, Jeff's here. Oh, back to PG. Old PG Lambert's in the house. God damn it. Let's go to pick number 5. Good morning, Jeff. Yeah, the Kyle Pitts hype was crazy. People were talking about him going 101. What the fuck was that about? Think about that. Oh, he's a generational talent. Fuck, man. They're all generational talents. That's why they're entering into the NFL. Like, think about this. Oh, he's a good athlete. They're all fucking athletes. Like, oh my God, we're never going to see another 6'5", 250 fucking tight end again. They're all 6'5", 250. Like, think about this. Dynasty shows. This is why I don't do Dynasty anymore. You guys are all madness. You're looking at numbers like they matter. They all suck. And then all you guys are like scrambling for fucking Will Dissly for fab. But I can't play Kyle Pitts. I got Wizard Dissly. Like, shut the fuck up. This is why we stick to gambling. Travis Kelce, lower than 69.5 receiving yards. Speaking of Kyle Pitts, last week a block performance included a 49-yard reception, padded what would have been around a 70-yard day. So I think this has been backed into a stat line that looks nice enough to go over, I feel, but I just kind of feel like it's a bit more buyer beware in that regard. He is playoff Kelce. I get that. But in his last 3 playoff performances or appearances versus the Bills, each game he's dropped by about 20 yards. So he started off around 118, he dropped to 96, he dropped to 75. So every year he's played the Bills in the playoffs. They're just like hacking away at him. So I kind of like that for that in that regard. Maybe his longest reception is there. I don't see it for me. I tried to play with my keyboard. It's up here. I feel like he's casually been caught by Sean McDermott and the Bills. So his targets in the playoffs versus the Bills also has dropped from 15 down to 6. So like they're slowly getting at him in that regard. So for all intents, it seems like enemy number 1. Shows his importance. This year they kept him 4-2-8 this year on the ground. Look, the Bills versus Titans, middle of the pack. Noah Gray had 2 touchdowns when I met earlier. So also didn't cross 25. So that's one of those things where I don't see that for him this week. I feel like he's going to be a big figure. I feel like it's going to be more Xavier Worthy. What is his rushing prop? Rushing prop was like 3.5 yards. And I'm going to talk about the Chiefs rushing in a minute. We're going to talk about Kareem Hunt. The Chiefs rushing is absolute. It's terrible. That would be the equivalent of having Jeff Lambert at running back for the Chiefs. That's where we're at. You could throw anyone in there at this point. I don't think it's going to matter. They're just no good. Worthy 40-plus receiving. Chip on his shoulder for the narrative about that to prove a point. I kind of, if they met like in week 3 maybe, I'm angry. 40 yards receiving, he can do that in his heart. Yes. Look, what is he? I said it on last week's show. He's gone over 4.5 receptions. What's that now? 4 or 5 games? Or going back to the Vegas game in week 13, and he did it again last week with 5. So I could see him going over his reception prop. I think they had him at 3.5 to 4.5. So I feel like that's more in play because they're going to him consistently. You look at what they've done to Hopkins, and Hopkins is out there playing in line with Juju Smith-Schuster, like the amount of snaps or whatever it is. Marquise Brown's kind of in there. You're going to get that one stupid reception from Justin Watson. Justin Watson's going to have like a 35-yard reception out of nowhere, and that's going to go off. Like, this is how the Chiefs receivers and running backs are deployed. Like, it's kind of – that's where we're at. But, yeah, I mean, he's good enough to go over that 40 yards. I could see him going 5 for 55, give or take, so I don't mind that. Pick number 6 in our final prop pick for the day. We're looking at Kareem Hunt, take a late round flyer, and Jeff Lambert. Right? Yeah, Jeff Lambert's probably – about as useful as James Robinson at this point. So, post Achilles tear, we'll give him that. Kareem Hunt, higher than half a touchdown because, someone's got to score for him, right? Like, at this point, that's my hashtag analysis. Someone's got to fucking score. That's where we're at. To be honest, I'll lean on the lower here, and I'll explain why I talk myself and going over. But for now, we go higher because Hunt was rolling with most rushing touchdowns for the Chiefs this year. He's at 7, I think. So 7 touchdowns for a Chiefs running back, and he came in halfway through the year. As soon as they hit the goal line, they pull Pacheco out. Like they want no part of that. Pacheco, nah, son, get out. Kareem, just roll out. And by the way, Kareem Hunt, beefy looking fella, isn't he? I don't remember him being so chunky of late. The Cleveland weather, the Cleveland cold might have forced some soup into the boy. He looks a little beefier than normal. No one said that yet. Old chunky Hunt. A chunky Hunt out there. But as soon as he's rolling for most touchdowns for Chiefs, I said that before, hits the goal line, they pull Pacheco out. Even Xavier Worthy has more rushing touchdowns than Isaiah Pacheco this year. So that's why I said Xavier Worthy at 3.5 rushing yards. Kind of don't mind that one either. So Pacheco is the 1 touchdown for the year. So look, if and when the Chiefs get the opportunity, Hunt is generally the direct beneficiary. And they're going to get down there. But I can also see a shovel pass or a run around, like shovel pass to Kelsey, run around with Worthy. I can see that happening too. Look, the Bills versus running backs, Hunt actually popped them earlier for 60. But generally the Bills are strong in the run game. How much, the 140 from Hill, Henry last week, and Jackson combined, you could see at some point they just started to break down. The Chiefs aren't that team that are going to break it down in the run game either, so I don't feel like that's really there. The Bills did allow a second league high receiving yards to the touchdown to the running back. So the Bills gave a second to high leading touchdowns to running backs in the receiving game. They allowed 6. So there is that. But Hunt doesn't do that. So Hunt doesn't do that. They get a buck. They only had 1 receiving touchdown to running backs this year, the Chiefs. That was some RJP right earlier. So, if we're betting on a Chiefs running back to score a touchdown, it's going to be on the ground. And if we're looking at 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, Hunt has 70% of those. So that says everything you need to know about where they're at in the run game. And I'm not sure. The Chiefs, again, some RJP run has the only receiving touchdown for the Chiefs this year. That's for the running backs anyway. So, if they get a rushing touchdown from not Kareem Hunt, again, I could see that maybe being Xavier Worthy in that regard. And that's kind of weird to say because I don't think he's done that once this year. So Hunt has a touchdown in 3 straight games as well. How about that for a day? What a lot of picks. I actually gave you 7. So I've got more chances of being wrong today. Unbelievable. Anyway, we're going to recap those as always before we do, remember, Bills at Chiefs, Commanders at Philly. Just one of the Bills and the Commanders has to get in. Just one of them. Just give me one of them. I can't go through this Chiefs 49ers, who the fuck cares Super Bowl again. I don't think I watched that. I didn't give a shit. That's where we're at. Just give me something else. I don't want to greatness hate on the Chiefs, chase the 3-peat, but fuck Philly. There we go. As always, underdog.com, promo code GF2 for 250 big ones on your initial deposit. And as always, our Discord, it is free, it is live. Get yourself in there. Get the link, find yourself some questions, ask people. Hey, I've got all this fab left over from the season. Who can I drop on? Is Adam Troutman available? Let me find an irrelevant tight end that's better than Kyle Pitts. Fucking hell, man. Pick number 1, Austin Eckler, higher than 3.5 receptions and 23.5 receiving yards. Pick number 2, Bobby Wagner. We're going to go lower than 9.5 combined tackles versus Philly. I think it'll be close. But pick number 3.2. We're looking at Frankie Louvu sacks higher than a half at 1.79x bonus. Pick number 3. That was pick number 2B from 2A from Wagner. Pick number 3 is going to be Terry McLaurin. Highest reception is going to go lower than 23.5 as well. Looking at the Bills Chiefs games, Josh Allen pass attempts higher than 31.5. I like that very, very much. Pick number 5, Travis Kelsey, lower than 69.5 receiving yards. Pick number 6, Kareem Hunt, higher than half a touchdown, rushing or receiving as it would be. Kyle has what? Where's this chat? Oh, it's loading. Oh, there we go. I have Worthy. In my one and done lineup currently. Yeah, I mean, he's a good shot this week. I like Xavier Worthy. I think he's really good. Eagles will make it only because the script calls for it. I just, do they have enough grease in Philly for those light poles again. They can't go through such an ordeal like that again, can they? That can't be good for the environment, having to grease up all them light poles for people to fall down, go into the sewers, water our gardens with. Now we've got this Philly grease all over my garden. I can't have that. You know? Bills are our second lowest TD rate on carries inside their five-yard line, only at 29. Yeah, again, I'm looking at where I would suggest in this regard, the Chiefs are going to get down there too. And that's really shitty theory, but they're going to get down there at some point. And if they do, it's going to be Hunt. The way that they're going, if you had to pick and you look at those running backs, they've got P-Run, they've got Hunt. Who's the other guy? Pacheco, they've got that guy down there. Even Mahomes with the rushing touchdown. They're really just sourcing one guy at this point. So as good as the Bills are in that regard, I think that one's there for the taking too. Barkley's birthday. February 9th, same day as the Super Bowl. That's why he's traded. He didn't trade. He was a free agent, wasn't he? We just couldn't offer him enough money. And for the record, I am going to stand on the side of the Giants on this one. And they shouldn't have paid him because we would have been a 6-11 team again without Daniel Jones and further away from a quarterback. Like, come on. Like, this is, would have preferred him not to have gone to Philly, obviously. But what does it matter where he goes and makes his cheddar? Like, go nuts. Like, go to Philly, get some success. Any real Giants fan would want him to be successful because I actually love the guy. He was fucking awesome. The guy was a superstar. You should want him to actually have success. Does it suck that it's come at, Philly? Yeah, it would have sucked if he went to Dallas or Washington. It wouldn't have mattered. But the guy's going off, and everyone can see what every Giants person saw. He's a fucking superstar. Good for him. If anything, if there's any silver lining and Philly win a Super Bowl, you got to be happy for that guy that put up with so much ineptitude around him. And the fact that they couldn't offer him enough money, good. I'm glad he knows his worth. Jamie says, Chiefs are winning it versus the Eagles for a three-peat versus his old team. Illuminati control the outcome. They live the I wish I didn't open this picture. I should have read that one first. Thank you, Jamie. Go Bills and Commanders. Steven's in the chat. Gray has shown that he is adequate. Yeah, he is. They could. Yes. I don't mind. You know that they're going to spread this. Again, I know I was half joking with Justin Watson, but it's happening, right? He's going to get that one or two targets, and one of them's going to go for 25 to 30. They get weird with this sort of shit. I think Marquise Brown, he blanked the last time he played, and the guy put up, nothing? And his yards are going to be 45 yards too. So they get weird at this time of year, the Chiefs. They get everyone involved. They're normally pretty good at that too. So Noah Gray this time of year, I could see him having a nice day. He might get in. He might go for 30 and a touch. I could see that happening. That wouldn't be too much of a surprise to me, Stephen, at all. And that's not to say that Kelsey can't have a decent day, but I just don't see that prop of his longest reception from last week helping or buffering what he does. I really feel like they're going to play him a little bit tighter than always. So I don't like the idea of, was it Taylor Raps out, I think? But they've been pretty good at rotating in them safeties anyway. They've had a really rough year at safety, the Bills. I'm pretty sure, Jamie, you could touch on that more. But at one point they had Hamlin and Rapp out. I think they had Cam Lewis and someone else. They were just rotating dudes in. I should have kept Nathan Brock. Fuck off, Carl. Wish I didn't open this. Yes, that's my name. Because I have the screen on a half, Kyle, that way, the writing is only small. So when I click on it, I have to really read in, and then I'm like, oh shit. Really wish I didn't open this. Thank you, Jamie. Either way, 34 minutes, and I gave you guys bonus props. That's unbelievable. What a good guy this guy is. Unbelievable. Either way. As always, get that promo code GF2 over on Underdog for those initial deposits. And get to our Discord. It's a really good Discord when you ask questions. Get in, join up, ask questions. Find Gladys. Go tag Gladys right now and ask her who she should start and sit. She'd love it. Who should I start this week? She'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's what we want. Just bug Gladys. That's what we're here for. Either way. I am Dan. I am at the B League says somewhere. I don't know about this X business anymore. It's a little wild, isn't it? Safe bets, happy punts, cheers, and goodbye. Good luck.